On another episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast, I'm your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, leave your comments. For all of your real estate needs in South Florida, make sure to follow me at Rafi the Realtor, sign up to my newsletter. And today we have the second guest from the Soothing Semantics podcast, Owning Manhattan on Netflix, a new show from Ryan Serhant's brokerage. We have Jordan March, who was Michael B. Jordan's better-looking twin, and he's now with me sitting down. First was Niall, now we got Jordan on the show. Thank you for joining me, man.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So I can't say I heard of you before the show, and now you're making waves. Since you've been in Miami, how long have you been here? A week?
Less than a week, yeah.
Less than a week. You've been running around like a chicken without a head, doing a bunch of shows, meeting at pre-construction buildings. What I want to get into, it's going to be a fun episode. I have some really good questions. What I want to know, because I heard when you were on the last podcast you did with the NFL player, I don't follow football much. That's why.
No, it's so good.
So you were talking about how you used to jump turnstiles.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Oh yeah.
So I want to hear about your backstory. Give us a little bit about what you were doing prior to real estate.
Yeah, I was actually a high school dropout. I was a bit of a at-risk youth, funny enough, and got into I came from a good family. Consider myself like an educated person, but like anybody else, skipping class, just taking out early, falling behind on credits or whatever days of absences or whatever it was, and ultimately I made the decision that I was gonna drop out, and I just had to figure my life out. My boys were, I had friends with every crew, so I wouldn't even say I had a certain clique that I roll with, but I definitely had some of the, the guys at school that were kind of considered popular troublemaker guys a little bit and so on, and got themselves in a decent amount of trouble too, but I was always, I think, very, I think I had a vision of where I wanted to be in my life, at the end of the day, and I always felt like I'd end up in a place like this or something similar. And ultimately, I didn't really feel like that environment was the best for works for me, and it may not be the best for a lot of other kids that are going through something similar today. So I relate to a lot of people going through that. But I had made the decision. They were like, "You're gonna do a summer in phys ed and jog 3 miles at 7 a.m. or I was like, there's no way I'm doing that crap right now. I'll be honest with you. And I looked at my parents and I got into actually music school. So I got into a place called Audio of Engineering. Institute of Audio Engineering. It was actually in Greenwich Village by NYU. And ironically, I got a 4.0 the following year. And so St. John's came to me and gave me a full ride. But after I got through school, I immediately had gotten a job. I did an internship at the place called NYC TV, which was owned by NBC at the time. And then I got a job at Motown Universal, doing content programming, setting up production, suites like this, doing all the behind the scenes work with a bunch of celebrities and super cool, but wasn't making a ton of cash, even though I was around the action. And I was I always wanted to get into music business. I was a singer, I was a songwriter, a producer, rapper, you name it. I wanted to do it all. That business, it just takes a lot to fund. If you think of projects, marketing, music videos, you name it, going on tour, it's a big money grab. So you have to really figure out how you're getting your funding down. I was like, well, my boys always just sit around when we were hanging out and doing whatever and talking about getting into real estate. And I didn't realize it was a 2-week course, funny enough. So
you thought it was a lot harder?
Yeah, I thought it was a one year post grad or whatever. So I was like, what? It was he's I'll start now in June. I'll be done in July before Independence Day or something like that. I was like, what? And I literally fought. I was like, dude, there's no way. He's like, trust me, it's 2 weeks. I was like, I don't believe you. I was like, I'll bet you it's not. And then when he saw it, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna do that course, And I did the course and I got into real estate right after, kind of left the whole record label thing to get into real estate. And I was actually doing school. So St. John's, ironically, after being a high school dropout and this kind of rebel kid, got a 4.0 in audio, got an offer from St. John's to get a full ride. So I got a full scholarship from them. And I was going to work full time, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. So I was doing 12, 15, 18 credits while working at the same time.
Wow.
So my life had changed dramatically from where I was at high school. Now it's fast forward 16 years. I haven't really looked back. Never thought I would stay this long. thought I would, make money for 1-2 years, get out, get back in the business, figure out how to, get my footing in the business. And I ended up being kind of good at this,
So you have 16 years.
Yeah, so this brings you back. I mean, I technically was supposed to graduate high school in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So I left around that 2005. And then I got into the music school and did a year there. And then between, working in audio and working for the NYC TV, just by time, tail end of 2007 came around, I was studying for my real estate exam. And by 2008, I was working at a luxury boutique brokerage in Soho.
What was the name of
it? It was called Mark David at the time. Shout out to Mark David Fromm. Shout out to Carla Saladino, Claudia Fromm. My mentors who hired me at this age. I was 19 years old in the business, getting in, working in leasing, but still getting, a lot of luxury clients and just learning how they did business and how they thought about it. My mom was a big entrepreneur growing up, though. Always, played a lot of wealth mindset, money mindset, abundance mindset tapes in the house, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
All that stuff, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Napoleon Hill. So I was always immersed with that. And she was always bringing me along her meetings. And I was a kid, I would go sit in her, she would switch it up and go to college. I would sit in the room and just kind of be immersed with everything at a very young age, funny enough. So I was always saw myself as a young entrepreneur. And actually I started, not to go too down the rabbit hole, but while I was in high school and having all my other stuff going on, I actually had gotten into multi-level marketing. So if anybody remembers when Quickstar and Malaluka and Amway, all those businesses were big, I had gotten into Quickstar back in the day. And I probably recruited 100 kids in my school.
Oh, shit.
So I used to show up in school like this at 10th grade and kind of heckle my teachers a bit because I really thought I was going to make it. I was like, I'm bringing in $4,000 or $5,000 a month right now with this thing.
Shit.
At 10th grade, and we would get everybody the functions on the Monday, Tuesday, and have functions in one of my boys' houses, and it was really its own wave, it was just I was going through a lot of things, but I always was very entrepreneurial from that. And even from before then, I mean, my mother was a type that when she was doing all those businesses, it was of course going to the functions. You gotta work on your pipeline. You're doing pitches. You're bringing people. There's a big sales component to that network marketing business. And even getting people to try your products. I mean, we would set up our own little exhibition tables right in the middle of Times Square. Cops would come shut us down. And then she's like, we're taking our shit to 34th Street. Middle of the winter, you name it. Postcards, a stack. She'd be like, we're posting all these postcards on every telephone booth in town. And it was 0 degrees, right?
Damn, that's awesome.
I was just that was the hustle. We always played tapes or something very uplifting, and we were about the grind. Maybe play a little lotto, thought we were gonna win, but just kind of kept us in that kind of, money mindset. And by the time I got into the business, I already had all those internal sort of characteristics built up. So I was already just ready to hustle. So by the time real estate came, I was just hitting the pavement. It wasn't easy. I did a handful of deals my first year. It was difficult because it was Manhattan real estate and it was cutthroat, and my management wasn't going to slow down just for a young guy coming in. And I remember even when my first manager gave me because back in the day they used to give you an exclusive list of here's all the properties that you need to preview and take pictures of, because in rentals you have to get your own pictures. Everybody owned their own pictures for the open listings. She would ramble off the numbers, my own manager, God bless her soul. She, 555 was 55th Street. She'd take the number 212. No. I go, can you say the number again? Calling the super. She goes, no. I go, okay.
Shit.
She goes, figure it out. I was like, and I remember even my first day, had my best suit on, taking pictures, got paint on the suit. It was the rookie, getting hazed, But I came and I was I'm going to make this work, I really didn't have a lot of options. Everybody was kind of just kind of scoping me out and guessing what's his next move. My parents were they always believed in me. I don't think they ever doubted my capabilities, but until date, of course I did this cool program and did really well and got into school, but it's what are you going to really do to really make it? And is real estate really a thing? I got in during the recession. It was 2008-9. So literally when I got in, I was I got in at the worst time, and everybody was oh, get out of that business. It's not really great. I mean, I can't tell you how many people told me to get out, when I got in. And, here I am sitting in front of you, so it's been a journey for sure.
Really happy to hear that. How long did it take? Two questions. I want to know how you got to SERHANT, but how long did it take you until you went from doing a decent amount of business in maybe the middle market to hitting the luxury market?
It's funny. I mean, like after my first year, like I hit a good stride. So I managed after my first year. So I had gotten a team in my second year. Mm-hmm. And I had switched companies. I was working for Bond, New York at the time. Shout out to Bruno and Noah and everybody else that was a part of that. Jeremy Curtin. Everybody's listening. I'm kidding. So I had a team. We were doing mostly leasing, getting into sales, just building the business, building my Rolodex, just working on all facets of it, managing a small team of agents. And then the team really grew and grew and grew. So at one point, like I was kind of like a pseudo manager because my manager was like sort of a regional manager. He was like manning like 2-3 offices. And I was like the one that was in our Flatiron office, which was like our second sales office at Bond, which was like the largest independent owned firm in Manhattan at the time. So I was like this 20-year-old kid managing this office with these people and like just getting my feet wet with a couple deals. And then ever since then, like, I was kind of around the luxury, and then it really skyrocketed, I would say, around like, there were waves of like my progression. But like I would say like dominating luxury probably about like 2013, 14. So I had actually left the industry for a few years. 2010, had a great year. 2009, funny enough. 2010, went through a weird breakup, had like just some weird stuff going on. I couldn't close a deal for my life. Had clients, showing people. Nobody was pulling a trigger, and I was just spending money. I was backed up on my bills. I was like literally behind on my rent, and I had a friend who offered me an interview at a position doing digital media, but for publishers like Viacom, Meredith, and Scripps. So it's everybody from like the HGTV to DIY Network to the Martha Stewarts, the Food Networks, the Spikes, the Nickelodeons, everything. It was like, you're going to sell ads on these websites. I'm like, it's nothing to sneeze at. I was like, all right, great. What's the income? I was like, I'm down. He's like, it's going to be for like $40,000. I was like, what? I was like, I made like 160 the year before, something crazy. I just continued to fall behind, and I think a couple months went by. He's like, dude, just take the job, get caught up on your bills. I was like, all right, you're probably right. Let me just sit here. And I literally had to do the math because I was like, after tax, I was nothing. I was like,
Shit.
I was going to live on like ramen while just getting caught up on my rent, and it was going to take me like 4 months just to get out of the hole.
You have to rent pieces of ramen to people.
Right. No, I mean,
it's New York. You were living in Manhattan at the time?
Living in Manhattan at the time,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
And you have Manhattan rent. I'm a young kid. You don't really know how to balance your checkbook. Like you're still, probably ordering out a couple of days a week. Like, your finance all over the place. The consistency of your money's not there. Rentals is tough in New York at the time. Like we had some great moments. And I just remember like, taking the job and like really putting my head down. I also had like a tenant that was giving me some issues. So I wasn't getting money from the room that I was renting. I sublet it, and that person wasn't paying my rent. So like I was really like in a bad place. And that month in that sales job, I had done the most amount of sales, like almost like 2 months consecutively. I was like the first of the top two of the sales execs on the floor. People had been there for a few years even prior to me. And my manager came to me about 6 weeks in and goes, I'm going to give you a promotion. Just don't tell anybody. And I was like, okay. And then pretty much fast forward like the following quarter, it's like, I just got to get you through a quarter. I got to sell it to people. We got to like figure out how to get you buy-in here. And I was probably making, back to where, that $150,000, kind of income mark again. It was like, okay, God, like you're putting me in this position. And I was managing then a team of ad ops, ad sales, and account management. So everybody who like created the ads, account management, people who optimized and looked at all the metrics. So like, and we're talking about Fortune 500 companies on, premium publishers. Like I told you, the Spike TVs, the AMCs, the Martha Stewart's, you name it, the sales team. And I actually was the first manager in that company to manage 2 sales teams at the same time because of, the verticals that were kind of struggling for revenue just because of like the stuff that I was doing. And like, I was really able to help people like really have breakthroughs in sales and understand like the psychology really from what I was doing in real estate. And also all those years of like just reading about sales methodologies and business acumen and everything else. I had gotten into that, but I was just missing real estate a lot, and I was like, I got to make this work, and again, a couple months before I didn't pay my rent. Everything was, I was again, jumping the turnstile, buying dollar chicken, like buying dollar pizza from two bros because, again, in rentals, you have to finance your ads. And there were a ton of money, but, it was like $7 and you ran like 5 or 6 ads a day. But, it added up as a business expense. And I wasn't really thinking like an entrepreneur. I was a young kid, who thought I was thinking like an entrepreneur. But, it catches up to you and you have all other, other things you're doing. You're covering cabs and taxis and dinners, and you still have to like entertain and be a broker and show up with your best self. And fast forward, I'm in media. It just didn't make sense. But it actually ended up being one of my biggest blessings, because when I came back to the business, and why I bring the story up is because you said when you crushed it, is like when I really understood the power of using digital media to my advantage, and like the understanding really the metrics behind like consumer behavior and how to scale your voice and your reach and like really get like engagement online and just everything about like quality engagement, because there's a lot of other metrics outside of just like likes and views. I knew that I like had a real clear vision on like what was next needed for me to take my brand to the next level. So when I came back to the business, I worked and managed a couple of small shops that didn't really go anywhere, kind of went out of business. And then I'd gotten with a partner of mine, ironically, I'm taking you guys from story to story here, but like there's two distinct moments in my life. One is that moment when I had to switch into digital media. The next moment, I'm managing one of the firms that went out of business, and I was getting checks bounced on. I had a new baby at the time, and I had my rent and daycare and everything. And I'm like a 24-year-old dad, right? So I'm like still a kid.
Right.
I just remember being super freaked out. Like, what am I going to do? Who's going to, like my rent's $4,000. The daycare is $2,300. I got to eat for another $2,500 or whatever a month. Like, still get around. I was like, what am I going to do? Who can I call to like, I don't know, ask for $10,000? Do you have a friend you can just say, hey, give me 10 G's right now? Like, we could probably count them on one hand, right? So like, and at 24, I was like, nobody's going to give me that. So I was freaked out. I was like, what do I do? I move home? Like, I have no money, and my boss is bouncing my checks.
So you could have gone back with your mom? She would have let you do that? You didn't want to, obviously.
Upstate, I mean, and if you've been in my house, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
The environment, like, I was like, and that was like really a turning point where I just had to like really double down and have faith. It's funny. So long story short, one of my coaches, who's still a really good friend of mine today, he goes, email everybody in your network. Tell everybody that you're looking for a job. And I was like, literally freaked out to the day. I was calling him every day. Like, what do I do? It's been 2 weeks. I have no check. I don't see the CEO. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. It's now $15,000 a mode. Fast forward, I had gotten an email from my old manager when I was at Town Residential. She says, I know of a shop that would really use your services good. You've done, really good with training people. You've done some good sales. You're really strong at rentals. And she put me in touch with my manager at the time, which was the beginning of me on that $1 billion path. So I had met the two partners from this technology firm called LG Fairmont, and they just were like, listen, we have like a dozen agents. We're raising capital right now. I think you'd be good because, you have some digital media sort of sense. You understand how business scale and like sort of like the venture capital sort of world as much as real estate. And you have like this digital media experience. You've done rentals. So it was like a nice little mix for them. But I was like a 24, 25-year-old manager at the time, right? So, and the irony is, he goes, I was actually trying to meet you 2 weeks ago. I go, what do you mean? He goes, that company that went out of business, I was trying to buy that company. And I was in your office, and your boss talked about you, and we were expecting you to be invited to that meeting, and he never invited you.
Oh, shit.
Nobody recruited me anything. I emailed a friend in San Francisco who put me in touch with that guy. That's the crazy. Irony was like, I was actually trying to meet you. And then he goes, if you sign with me, he goes, I'll give you $20,000. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I'll think about it. We'll see. Let's negotiate.
And in your mind, you're like,
and in my mind, I'm like, God, you got it. Whatever is out there is real. I was like, you
were short real. $15K, and now you just got 20. And you
got 20.
And you know what I mean? Dying for what.
Yeah, and I got the income that I needed. I was making crazy money after that, and like just doing really well. And pretty much the first year we were like 150, second year we're at 300, third year we're at 500. Like we went to the moon using digital media to really scale our business. A lot of people were just like super skeptical of the company and like that business concept of really doubling down on like how buying ad space or advertising on Facebook or Google or any social media is really going to get you some real traction, and you can build a career and like get, really see your career take some maturation here. And that's kind of what happened. So, long story short, we were the number one partners of Zillow at the time, spending $2 million a year with them, right? Literally. And everybody laughed. They're like, what? Really? You guys are doing Zillow leads? Da, 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 da. Maybe in other towns it was big, but New York, it was like nobody cared about it. Like a handful of agents maybe did it. And like Brooklyn, like nobody cared, right? And all of a sudden we just bought like 80% of the ad space. And then they acquired this site in New York called Street Easy. Everybody knows Street Easy.
Yeah, sure. I've heard of it, yeah.
So the Zillow calls are going, you're going to go live in Street Easy in a week. We were already partners with Zillow, doing moderate success, again, the $150 million a year. Like, okay, good, but still off people's radar for a brokerage. It's not crazy. And then overnight, we were dominating 80% of like the most traffic site in the industry. That following year, did about $500 million in sales. And that continued on for the next 2 consecutive years. So actually, it's like more like a $1.5 billion that happened in about 5 years with them. And again, I was like this young, you know, kind of the story I told you, like this young kid, like in the midst of all this, like, you know, just coming out and trying to make this business work. And I was managing, so from 12 people, it went to like 600-700 agents.
Holy shit.
I had 5 managers who had about 50 agents. I had about 250 direct reports. And I was helping with recruiting, helping with ad buys, helping with, you know, really just all the sort of the business matrix of like, how do we now scale the profitability and like really look at our expense sheets and everything and really clean that place up. And there's, you know, a couple of things that said like, you really helped save this place, you know, on a personal level, some things I won't even share, but they were in a critical point themselves because of how they raised money, but it really their burn rate was like kind of nuts. You know, fast forward is like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, again, this young, like 20, you know, some odd year old, like entrepreneur or like, you know, managing director. Again, just a couple years prior, I was like a high school dropout, you know? So like, you never know. So that really cemented my name in the industry. It was a huge disruption, but it was like, we were kind of seeing the industry of where they were heading before this all happened, right? Like my thesis at the time was that aggregator sites were really disrupting every industry they were in. You were Airbnb, it was disrupting the hotel industry. You wanted to get a flight, you're no longer calling your tour agent or travel agent, excuse me. You're no longer going to American Airlines or Delta. Not that you wouldn't, but you'd probably check Kayak first. You'd check Orbitz first. You check all those aggregators. You wanted to get a taxi. You ordered an Uber. So like, you name it by whatever industry you wanted to get closed. You don't go to, you know, the local retail store anymore. You're on Amazon. You're on Overstock.
Everything's online, yep.
But like in these sites where now they're building the brands and aggregating that information, I said, well, what is it for real estate? And that's where the whole thesis of Zillow being that player came in. And like their traffic was surpassing all the traffic for all the individual brokerage websites. And also people were using that as their main UX platform to search for an apartment rather than going directly to these other sites and these other, you know, like if you went to DE and did your search rather than Zillow, right? That's kind of how that all happened. And it was like, kind of meteoric out of nowhere. So that was about tail end of 2013 into 2014, and I stayed with them until about 2018. You know, ever since then, people sort of knew my name in the business. You know, like I was doing a lot of deals, and I managed, as I said, you know, hundreds of agents at that time, training, getting everybody off the ground, broke a few millionaires out of that group, you know, and, you know, fast forward a few years, you know, went to a place called Mirador Real Estate, which was like the top leasing company in Manhattan. So they were working with Rose Associates, Greystar, the Manchurian family, all those institutional big leasing players that have those 300 to 500 unit buildings. I was, you know, really working with them and multiple projects all at once, you know, 100 plus building portfolio, you know, at that scale, and just, you know, working with agents and, you know, up really looking to optimize their process and, you know, all their internal sort of team dynamics and just like systematize their process a bit more. You know, got with my partner, Sean McPeak, a year after, just wanted to change that dynamic of that company. And then, you know, we were at Brown Harris Stevens, Halstead for just a short year. And even that was like such a random like gamble just to like, you know, work with my friend who I was just doing football Mondays with and stuff like that, and we would just chat about the business, never thinking that one day we'd work together, to then ultimately like get a call from Ryan Serhant when he was just opened his brokerage. There was no agents that were hired. There were boxes in a room, and we were sat there, and he's like, I'm starting a company, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm thinking. And we're like, take a shot. I was like, where's the office? He goes, I don't know. How big do you want to go?
That sounds just
no
like
clue.
That sounds just, I don't know. You know,
I don't know. How big do you want to raise money? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm funding it myself. I was like, well, what's the plan, right? You know, like, he's like, the plan is to sell like a ton of real estate.
I can't imagine him sounding like that, because now I know Ryan as this guy that has everything figured out, but I also don't know him like you do. You realize that no one has everything figured out.
No.
But when you see him on Instagram, he has such a big presence, and he does things so differently up until he started to make content with his Superman thing, dropping in with the cape in the middle of New York, and his little shenanigans. But it's so eye catching. He does things differently, so I can't imagine in the beginning.
He breaks every rule.
Yeah,
and we see those things and kind of take it. Okay, it's Instagram. He's a TV guy, and I don't think people really realize like what goes into like even like these type of productions. It's like no one's telling him to put that Superman costume on.
Totally.
Like no one's go, hey Ryan, this is the treatment for the video tomorrow, for your Instagram. He's sitting there and coming up with those ideas himself over and over and over and over and over again, while being a dad, while selling real estate, while running a company, while running the #1 sales platform like in the industry, while public speaking, and now I'm like looking at it, I'm like, well, what's my Superman costume? You know, like. So there's a lot. There's some big shoes to fill, you know?
He's just got such a personality.
Yeah.
He has this infectious, charismatic personality you don't see in too many people.
Yeah, you don't get it. He's different. He's definitely a beast.
Right?
Yeah.
He's got a Hollywood, in a sense, because I know he wanted to do acting. I know his story. He has this Hollywood-level personality, and he sells real estate. When you put those things together, it's a dangerous combination. I can't wait to have him on. He's gonna be watching this. He better be watching this.
I'll send it to him.
You send it to him.
Yeah.
I'll have you on too, Ryan. Don't worry. We'll do it.
Hey, shout out to Ryan.
So
shout out to the GOAT.
You joined New York Santa, skinny New York Santas. He's gonna be like skinny, pretty fit, somewhat fit.
He's fit. I
don't know, I'm joking.
He's like a good 215.
No, he's got abs. I was making a joke that he's like thin.
Yeah. He's no Santa, but yeah.
So he calls you, and he doesn't have things figured out. What happens from there?
We sign. We just figure it out. I mean, it's the middle of the pandemic. Everybody's in masks. We had additional disclosures for COVID and forms and this and that. And then they had new discrimination riders and this. Just to get into an apartment, you know, it was just so much disclosures and new things that were rolled out at the time. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, imagine the pandemic. You want to sell your house, but you're like not letting people in at the same time. You know, right. So like the market was dead, and we just literally hustled. Like we sat in rooms. We had a round table at the time where everybody sat around, and like we just were like on the phones, and he's on his laptop, and I'm on mine, and we're just working. Yeah, and just built that company up. You know, recruiting agents, spreading the word, getting it out there. Like like. Your client dinners are outside in the middle of 10-degree weather, and like we're all like kind of like under the hot lamp of these restaurants, and still trying to figure out how to bring people together and still make the business work, and it was really challenging.
You were one of the first guys then?
Yeah.
Okay. How many people did you recruit, I guess, in the first month?
4.
Wow. So you were an OG. Like you're.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So this show is very impactful to you. This means a lot.
Oh yeah.
You were there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it must mean a lot to him because you trusted him in his vision.
I'm one of his. I would say I'm like one of his right-hand guys for sure. Like I think he knows he can trust me like no matter what. Brought a lot of the top teams over. I've jumped in tech. Like we talk about business concepts. Like he'll tap me for his thoughts because of like again what I've done in management, and it was like pretty significant in New York at the time. And he goes, I may know a lot of stuff that you don't know, but you know a lot of stuff I don't know. So like, how do we help each other? And now we're like top 6 or 5 firms or whatever it is, and wherever it's going. I mean, he did $1 billion in sales last month across our markets. I mean, it's meteoric for sure.
$1 billion in a month. But that's $1 billion across. We're talking all of the brokerages in all the states. $1 billion in a month is crazy.
So we're like in 8 markets. we're still really boutique, but we have probably the highest efficiency. So like, I would say at least for New York metrics, we have the highest average deal size per agent.
Right.
Let's say it's like 2.3 when the other agencies, some of them are averaging 2 and under per agent. And we're a small firm still. I mean, we're 200 people, which sounds like a lot, but when you start comparing it to like the Compasses and the Elements and the
So you have 200 agents across all
in New York.
Oh,
we're
New
about
York.
600 agents across all markets in 8 states.
Got it.
Right, but you have to think there's teams, there's assistants, right? So like, there's small offices still, like when you start to really break them down. So like we've been very boutique. When I sat with him, he goes, I got 8,000 resumes right now. 8,000 resumes.
Especially after owning Manhattan, I bet you forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts,
I can't imagine how many people got licenses just by seeing the show. They're like, oh, I want to do it too. And they have no idea what they're in for.
Absolutely. Yeah, right.
No idea. I'm not going to get this amazing show myself. I can't get a Ferrari the month after I get in the business. Like them, people have this cute perception that they're going to have
they can't get rich quick.
Everybody
it's
wants.
Real estate is not a get rich quick scheme, guys. Build a career, build a life,
Takes time.
Listen,
Man, I'm in it too.
It's like any other business.
I'm with a boutique company too.
Yeah.
It's a great company here in Miami.
Cool.
Eventually we do very big. Not when I say we, I'm not there yet. I'm about 3.5 years, almost 4 years in the business.
Sure, yeah.
But my brokers are doing, they just closed $23 million deal, but practically a $30 million. It's called The Brokerage, South Florida.
Cool. Yeah, I think I've heard of them, yeah.
I'll definitely, next time, they have some big listings. You can come tour them.
Yeah, I'd love to, yeah.
Do some content.
Absolutely.
Do some collabs.
Yeah.
I'll introduce you to them. Dude, they're killing it.
Yeah.
They're more on the DL. They don't have huge Instagrams. They're not super flashy. But they're some of the most successful realtors in South Florida, without a doubt. They, Dina Golden's Hair?
No.
She did a deal. She's one of the most successful brokers in the entire country. Ryan knows her very well. They've had listings together.
Okay, cool.
They had a huge $150 million listing a little while ago.
The one in Palm Beach?
The one in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Blonde woman.
I think I may know her face, but I don't know her personally.
I mean, it's crazy. To be perfectly honest, I think her stats are higher than Ryan's.
Her stats? Maybe.
Individual.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So it's next level, and they just did a deal with her. They had the listing. She brought the buyer. I think it was 23 or 27 million, something like that. So they're doing. My brokers are killing it. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to Zalmi and Joel. They're doing very well.
Hey.
Indeed. So hopefully you'll meet them at some point. So that's also a smaller brokerage. We have maybe 25 people. I was with Keller Williams before.
Cool.
But I really wanted to get into the luxury market. So
yeah. Now you're here.
That's it. I just got a nice listing. It's just under $2 million in Fort Lauderdale.
Absolutely.
So we're there, working on a couple of more.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So working on a couple of more, but it's exciting. The feeling. I can't wait to have that $7 million, $10 million.
Oh yeah,
deal.
man. And then you stay in that.
Oh,
and then it's no big deal.
Tree the branches.
It's just and then it becomes no big deal. You just do it every day.
Crazy, huh?
I just left a $18 million listing right now down here.
Really?
Yeah.
You just signed an $18 million, you said?
I just left a listing that I'm bringing a buyer, but I got about $300 million of listings that's sitting on that table right there.
Does it fuck with you sometimes? Do you sit back and think that you're living in like an alternate reality? Like you've already come to terms with it? From where you've come years and years ago with the turnstile, do you sit back and say, Jordan?
You know what it is? It's more like, you like believe and you hope your beliefs are like really valid and like you learn to manifest and like you're like, all right, does it really work? Like you tell people, like you get on the train, like you're all for positivity, but you haven't really seen that like culmination of like everything happen. And like every step of the way in my career, like meeting the guy that like sent me 20K, like somehow getting into media where like I was going through the worst period of my life and it became like the biggest blessing because now I have, one of the biggest prowess over this digital media of anybody in this whole entire industry in the country, not the world, like just because I had to get my IIB certification, get my Google Analytics certification, running $1 million a month campaigns for like huge, Fortune 500 companies, whether it's like an Overstock or a Pepsi or Starbucks or whoever, right? Working with Martha Stewart or Food Network or like these brands. It was like, it's no joke, right? It's surreal, life is really surreal. Like it's really it's really like its own little matrix, man. Like it really is like whatever you think, and I really believe whatever internal chatter is going on is like what that reality is going to be.
Totally, man. Totally.
So you got to really watch that internal voice, because that's your real kind of pulse and like where you're at, like, or where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we're all dealing with stuff, but I really try to be disciplined as much as I can. I mean, I still go through it. I mean, I'm on Owning Manhattan. I'm still, every level you have a doubt, like you ran for president, you still got to do it the second term. Like, so you always are met with like, could I do it again? Like, is it, is everything really what I think it is? But then you have to start getting behind it. It's like, no, it is. And then when you start to really understand those like universal laws of like how to manifest, or like law of attraction. I mean, I started really learning this stuff and like living it,
It must be hard. You're not such a good looking guy. It must be tough for you, man. I'm being
very
sarcastic.
But it's like, it's a discipline, because like, again, you're going through money issues, you're going through relationship issues, you're going through health issues, whatever you're going through. How do you now create that next level of like reality for yourself, and like not be too far in the future, but really owning the now, the present moment, and like owning that vibrational, like internal reality,
Without a doubt.
And until I think that, and I was like, but yeah, some days you wake up, you're like, is this real? Like, like, am I really watching this? Like, is it really out? It's like, no, it is. Now you work on it, like you can't sit back and ask too many questions. But I also don't like overly sulk in it either. Like I take everything, very much as a blessing. And I just try to like now handle everything with like a new sense of responsibility. You want to like live up and meet all the new demands that's kind of required.
More of them is you're going to be getting busier and busier.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like I cut the meeting. I'm up here. It took me an hour. I got to go back down. I got another meeting.
This is your life, man.
Two,
you chose.
Like,
yeah, you chose it.
Like we're going up. We're coming to Aventura.
I'm proud of you, man.
You're
going to have a lot more of it. You're on a Netflix show, a very popular one. I mean, I saw the stats. I mean, you're going to be getting called and emailed and invited. It's only the beginning, man. I mean, the show just came out, in June?
A month ago.
June? So
June 29th or something like that.
Just
a little over a month.
Yeah, put your seatbelt on, man. It's gonna be a wild ride.
40-something days, yeah.
Something that I really wanted to interject with. You were talking about not sulking in it too much, or not getting too excited about even the good things. Have you heard of Patrick Bet-David?
Yeah.
Okay. So he put out a great reel talking about this. He said, when things are going badly, don't focus too much on it. It's happening. Experience it. Go through it. It isn't verbatim, but I'm putting it together as best I can. Mm-hmm. And then he says, when things are well, don't get too excited either. Don't dwell in it too much, because at the end of the day, this is a stepping stone. There are going to be more good and bad things that happen along the journey. Take it in, learn from it. Be confident about it, enjoy it, but don't get too excited. Some people, they get that $7 million deal. Say all their deals prior were $1 million. Now they get that $7 million deal, and they think they're the best agent in the world. And then 3 months after that, dry.
Nothing.
When I get that $7 million deal, because it's going to happen, I'm going to be very excited about it. When it closes, I'm going to enjoy it.
Sure.
But I'm back at the desk at the end of the day. Will I take a little trip, whether it's a week later? I may enjoy it a little, but I know I need to continue to focus, because that wheel needs to keep spinning. That's how my brokers are. Like, they'll go out, they have families, they're married, they have families. They go on vacations and trips, but they bust their ass. It's very clear. And that's it's a life that you choose. I mean, when I saw Ryan talking to his wife on Owning Manhattan, and she was talking about giving her enough time, spending time with her. That's a rabbit hole I'd like to get into in with you about. You can choose the 9 to 5 life. You may even find a job 9 to 5 that pays you a great salary. You come home at 5, you hope you don't take the work home with you, and you're done. But then there are that small percentage of people, and I can say myself included, like you and I, we have this vision for something bigger, and we don't have a guarantee that it's going to happen, and it could take an enormous amount of time. It's going to suck in the process until you start to get there. Why go through something like that? Why go through something like that? You only have so many years to live. You maybe have, God willing, maybe 75, 85, maybe 90 years. Why put yourself through so much agony just to maybe get some more money, maybe be your own boss? What about that made that the kind of endeavor you wanted to go after?
For me, it's just, I was just always obsessed with being successful. For me, it's actually not even a dollar amount, to be honest with you. Some people, I make this, I'm going to quit. It's like, I actually was never motivated by money. I was motivated by my own personal just greatness, and like, I wasn't super competitive even, like, because I've always felt like I was like, decent at certain things. If anything, sometimes I'd win without trying. I was like kind of that guy. I was like, so I didn't want to rub it in people's face. If anything, sometimes I'd even let people win. Go, okay, you win. I'm okay. I know I could win. Which now it's like, all right, let's just win. But
all right, you've had enough of your fake winning. Now it's time for me.
Yeah, it's time for a win. I think there's just something really deep down that that drives somebody, especially a man, of like, who wants to create a legacy for himself, right? Like, and there's legacies on different levels. You have your family legacy, but then it's like, with the capacity that you have, whatever problems you're looking to solve in whatever industry that you're working in, right? Because a lot of the billionaires, it all started with them solving a problem. They didn't say, I want to be a billionaire, right? Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, right? Bill Gates, we're all starting with the problem.
No doubt.
Right? And like, then that bubbled into something completely different, right? And then just like, then knowing, okay, well, if I'm going to make this, if I'm going to solve this problem, or if I'm going to make this level of greatness happen in my life, like, what's really required? And I think that's what most people don't want to wrap their head around, is like, and guess what? 9-to-5ers, it's a great life. Like, living in 2024, and I talk to a lot of people. I talk to taxi drivers. I talk to homeless people. There's a big shift that I went through, I think, even in the pandemic and post-pandemic, about what happiness is. For me, it's competing with myself, right? We're like, given again, Ryan, he can retire tomorrow and be good for life, and his kids and his grandkids. Yeah. It can be over. All right, guys, wrap up. I'm selling the business. It's over.
Yep.
And I'm done, right? But I think it's not just the money. I mean, there's, of course, the money and you want to win, but I think it's more about, him competing with himself, him outdoing what he was doing yesterday, and that personal, inner, continuous.
It's an addiction. It's the achievement.
Well, it's like, it's like when you're at the gym, right? Like, you got to break down your muscle to then build a new muscle. And it's like that, you're just like that, that drudgery of like, kind of like, it's, there's the law of attraction, like, meditate and say everything you can and think positively. And then there's a part of like, I just got to like break myself down to build myself back up, to break myself down again, build myself back up. That's a choice, right? Like,
totally.
Some people, they're at the gym, they can see some nice gains. And then you have the guy who like puts in not just 45 minutes, he's there, hour and a half.
I appreciate that.
Right?
You didn't have to compliment. I mean,
right. He's disciplined with what he eats, right? He doesn't, skip leg day. Like, that little extra effort is just internal. It's like the guy who was the captain on your team and was always in front of the pack when it was time to jog. Like, we're all jogging together. We're all going to finish the jog at the same time, roughly. But then there's one guy who's like, I need to be in the front, right? And, I think, Ryan, on some level, is a competitive person. He wants to feel like anything he's going to do, he's going to be super successful at. Everybody's different drivers. Like, it's not the same for me, because I already feel like, again, I won, right? Like, on some level, because I do live a good life. I'm happy about having peace, health. My kids are healthy and live and going to great schools and happy. And we're living in 2024. So if you just put things in perspective, is even the guy who's homeless in the street is probably wealthier than a semi-wealthy person 300 years ago. If you think about it.
Yeah.
He has a cell phone.
It's a crazy thing to think about. Yeah.
A toothbrush was, in 1900, you weren't even using a toothbrush. Like, put that in perspective.
They didn't have a toothbrush in 1900?
They started getting used heavily in the 1920s.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
People were doing like horse hair and like weird shit, I mean, if you think of the amount of inventions, like, now you can hop on a plane and go to China and go to Dubai. If you were a prince or the king, if you were King George in England, like, you could not fly to Japan in a matter of few hours.
Yeah.
You may have heard about those people. Maybe you were with the, explorers on a boat seeing what it's like. You heard about the America. They thought America was India.
But you are leading something.
Yeah. So I think, like, a lot of my perception now is honestly gratitude for, like, what we're living in. Like, we're living like really based on the breakthroughs of a lot of our forefathers and these great inventors and these people around us, that I didn't have to figure out how to lay these tiles and turn this light on. Like, I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely.
Like, we benefit off that, right? So, like, I think there's a certain level of abundance that I'm just in a very happy, blissful state, because, like, even if you're making, and again, some people are making 50, 60K and going through, I'm going to be not everybody's going to be a millionaire. It's okay. And don't forget your question, but, like, you can go home and watch Leonardo DiCaprio 20 times on streaming, like, and see the best actors for $10 a month on Netflix. Right? You bought your TV. TVs now are $100. Remember back in the day, it was like getting a big TV was like so expensive, and who had
Black
a computer?
Friday, it was like $2,000. People are killing each other over it.
Right?
There's one more LG left, and they're just like,
dial-up modems before the internet.
Oh,
Maybe the internet in the 90s came, like, really started getting used in households.
Jeeves, AOL, all that jazz. People still use.
Right.
I still have an AOL.
Dial-up modems, right? Like, this is how things are progressing, and we're not seeing that those breakthroughs have added to our happiness, and at a small fraction of what the cost would actually take to even make those things happen.
They've
right?
definitely made our lives easier.
Yeah.
Have they made us happier? In certain ways, they've made people's lives a lot less happy.
Of course, yeah.
We're talking about social media. But what I wanted to mention, because you're talking about people that do things at an elite level, you've heard of Jordan Peterson, I imagine.
Yeah.
He said that he was giving this speech, and he was talking about how most people are not going to fill leadership roles. They're going to have everyday normal lives. But then there's the small percentage of crazy people. This is kind of how he worded it. Nutty, crazy people that just have to get to the highest peak, the highest valley. And he said it takes a toll. It takes a toll mentally. It takes away a lot of their free time. They're not going to have as much time to travel and do maybe these fun things like go jet skiing. You can do them. But people that do things at a high level are going to forfeit and forego a lot of the social activities. You're going to say no to a lot of your friends that are asking you to hang out on a Wednesday or a Thursday. But he said that those are the people that shape the world. They build the highways, not actually the ones building them, but they're planning the builds. They're all of the massive and incredible innovations and inventions that exist today were from the people that had crazy minds that wanted to accomplish at the highest level. So I think you're either like it or you're not. I think you're either born with it or you're not. That's what I believe.
I don't know if it's a born thing. I definitely feel that, like, watching my kids, I mean, you definitely have, like, there's like an inner competition, because even my son probably was born with his, like, inner sense of competition. So I definitely feel like there's some that's born, but like for instance with him, he would be like 3 years old going to like 2 to 3, literally, like baby, like going to soccer, playing, and then I was like, great, soccer practice. Let's get you a bunch of, Sour Patch Kids or whatever, and he wouldn't even take it from me. He goes, no. He goes, I didn't do good today. I go, what are you talking about? He did great. You're 3 years old. You kicked the ball around. I couldn't buy him any gift, couldn't buy him any candy, wouldn't take it.
Bro,
week after week.
You got like a...
I was like, who are you? You mama mentality, this kid? And now on the soccer field, it's mama mentality. And now he's 10 and like he's super competitive. So I do think that there's some innate things, but characteristics are definitely nurtured. We're definitely mentored into that space. Like we have, hopefully you're surrounded by great people. I surrounded myself by, a lot of just, again, wealth and abundance mindset. I'm always listening to tapes because a lot of it's just shifting your mindset. And I think ultimately there are people that are teachers or leaders or mentors that can help you shift that perspective. And then there's still that decision that you got to make of like, again, there's the best on whatever it looks like. And then there's still competing with yourself. And that, to me, on a breakthrough level, isn't measured necessarily by numbers, right? Like there are breakthroughs that I think people will make that's like, no, you're number one, because you pushed yourself in this way and you've had these breakthroughs. So I don't always look at just the sales of the month and who had the most and who, but like this person had the biggest growth. This person took the biggest risk. This person had the biggest internal breakthrough. You're number one for yourself this month because that's what it took to now get to that next level. And now you could see those 20 steps that are in front of you, you know? So like, I never knew that I'd be part of all those cool scenarios and all that, you know? And I think, you know, I mean, ultimately, like, it's grown. It comes with confidence. Through the confidence and self-love, you're able to take those risks because you're able to believe in yourself and see the unseen and kind of breathe things into life that just don't make sense. I think, again, it's mindset. Mindset can be made, but yeah, there are some that are just a little different than the others, for sure.
Yeah, without question. I think it is it's a combination of nature and nurture, I guess, like anything else.
Yeah.
But I do think...
Because I've nurtured it, you know, like I'm hanging with my buddy right now. When I met him, he was like, you know, teaching them work ethic. He's making $500,000 right now. You know, one of my buddies in media who I was just kicking it with a little bit earlier here, when I met him, he wasn't making $20,000 a year. And, you know, he was a knucklehead, you know, and other personal things were going on. He was getting in trouble, whatever it was. And nobody saw the light in this kid. And now he's making $500,000 a year. And
dude, wow.
He's the president of his company that's, you know, it's worth $50 million and owns 25% of it. And like, just like little things like, so the person has to be willing. They got to really commit to changing their thinking. And I think the biggest thing is like being coachable, knowing that you don't know everything, knowing that you got to like really follow whatever the path is. And once you commit to that, and if you are coachable, you could get there. But I think the biggest thing is having that openness, having that humility to be coached, because sometimes your coach is going to crank down the iron fist and really redirect you in areas and sort of shake things up. Because even me, when I work with some of my mentees, I got to shake them up a little bit. Because if I talk and say, hey, really sell that deal, I go, close that deal. Yeah. And I really hit them with a little bit of conviction. They go, Jordan, I came back, I got the deal closed. But sometimes they just had needed to get rattled up a little bit, you know? Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's the innate, but I really do believe as much as there's talent, that hard work is always going to trump that.
This is really great, man. I can talk to you forever. Like, not forever, obviously, but for a long time.
Yeah.
I can tell there's just a lot of deep understanding you have that I relate to in terms of business, personal life. I could like, we probably spent about an hour now. I could easily do another 3 because there's so many things. Every time you make a point, I think of 3 branches of more discussions.
Sure.
So that's some good stuff, man. Let me wrap this up. We covered a lot of ground. I don't know how much more time you're willing to.
Yeah, let's throw another question out there. Well, you know.
What do you feel like it really gave you? Other than exposure, obviously, what do you feel like it gave you?
I think the ability that, like, again, now, instead of, say, knocking 8 times to get into certain doors, I knock once. Mm-hmm. So I think, obviously, like, it just sort of elevated my brand to a credible place of people wanting to receive what I'm doing a little bit more. It sort of validated everything I've been thinking and saying all along. But I think for me, it was just another nod to, like, hey, like, you're on the right path. Sometimes you doubt yourself, like, did I do the right thing and I'm in the right place at the right time? It's like, no, you are. And this was, if you didn't do everything in the past, it wouldn't have added up to this moment that people are watching on TV today, but they don't see the 15 years that led up to this, you know, series.
The little bricks that you're laying down.
Yeah,
you
like,
don't really think
you know, like,
laddering.
to be able to deliver that in whatever small dosage or whatever, but like to be able to present a property a certain way or even get that property even have on the show, right? Like, that's all through preparation. And just like really believing in myself, like really believing that your dreams can come true, like really believing that, like, don't overlook your thoughts, like don't just think like and take it for granted and just think, oh, thoughts aren't things. Like, thoughts are very real and they really much are creating your reality in real time. And like, you know, it's something where like Ryan Serhant willed this to existence. It was not a layup like with Netflix at all. Like, he really had to sell the show and
how did that
make it work.
I'm curious to know how that even happened. I mean, are you able to
he has a production, so he's part of World of Wonder, who did $1 Million Listing, but you know, they're, you know, selling the show to Netflix and a few other, and he was like, I want to be on Netflix. And even I would be like, oh, what about Peacock? What about Hulu's great.
Yeah.
I want Netflix. It wasn't easy. Because when I talked to producers, that was the hardest show we had to sell ever. You know, and Netflix is, you know, I love, you know, I'm part of the Netflix family, but they're not playing around. They want the absolute best entertainment for their audience. That's it, you know. And they'll make sure that they deliver that over and over again. And, you know, we got the chance to do that for the world. And, you know, we're very humbled by that experience.
I mean, there was definitely some drama. I just need to know, man. Were there parts that were actually staged? Everybody wants to know.
No staging.
You think so? All the beef, all the drama with the ladies.
The beef was 100% real.
So how do you? Okay, so that opens up a lot of curiosity. How does that play out in everyday work life at the office when people are being a little catty and there's some?
Look, listen. I mean, like, you know, when it's caught on camera, it looks different, but you probably have it every day. Like, I could probably find so many moments I could pull a camera up to your life and see something that like felt like it was like a moment. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, Chloe and I having an issue was like a real issue. Like, that's a real story. It's not a fake story.
Right.
That's real beef that we had to settle.
She's a tough cookie, that one.
She's a tough cookie. She knows what she wants. She's gonna get it. You know. Mad respect.
I called her Tori accidentally when I was talking to Niall.
Yeah, you know, she's great though. Like, you know, she's a hustler. You know, she knows what she wants. She's fearless. You know, and like people like her, they don't like her, but she knows what she wants and she knows who she is.
In sales, that's a very, very big thing. I was talking to a colleague. You know, neither of us have been in the business for a super long time, but she's a lot newer. And we were just talking about how I'm more blunt in general when, you know, talking to clients and things like that. First off, I'm a New Yorker. I'm just like that. That's how I am. And I told her, I said, at the end of the day, you know, this is all a dance, but I can't expect every client to love me. There are going to be clients that love a more direct approach. I think in the luxury space, they don't mind if you're direct as long as you can get shit done. I mean, you tell me, but I think that's true.
So say that one more time.
In the luxury market, say you're in the $20 million, you're doing a $20 million deal. If you tell a client something that might not sound so digestible, but they know you have the track record to get shit done, do they really care? Meaning you're not going out of your way to be rude or anything, but you might say, hey, the price needs to be reduced, but maybe it doesn't sound so lovely to them. But they also know that because you're so blunt, because you're hardcore, you're going to get the deal. You're going to go to bat for them. You're negotiating. Versus
Absolutely.
if you're
I think
too
it's
soft,
I think it's all about managing expectations. You know, like you definitely have to calibrate that as you go along. And I think the best brokers get ahead of that. And the reason I'm successful is I tell them about the bad as much as the good. Like I talk to them about, hey, what happens if we don't have an offer that's, you know, accepted? Right. Like I know we're on our path to find our dream home. What happens if this house sells, you know, sits in the market for a little bit longer than expected? What's our game plan? What does that feel like for you? How do you manage your stresses in your life? Because you may be trying to buy a new home while you're selling this home. What do we do if we don't have access to that capital? So I think the right people, just like if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you're kind of mitigating risk. You're kind of going through all of the feelings, and whether it's a broker, even more so than sometimes than an attorney or a doctor sometimes go through with us, you know, like walking through these things. You know, sometimes I feel like a psychologist, you know, but like, you know, I ultimately feel like good salesmen are very honest. I think you still have to package it up and know your client because, you know, you have to deliver it so that they are able to receive it. And people receive things in different ways. And some people can get really nervous when you're like, well, that really bothers you, you know? You know, some people can take the harsh truth and be able to deal with it and navigate it. So I think you still got to know your client and know how to like, you know, ease them into it. Sometimes people don't want to know that there's 20 people bidding on the same house. That's scary, and I love it, and I want it so bad, and I've been looking for a year. It's like, well, how do you now navigate that scenario? So, but you still got to tell them, right? So they know, right? So I think you just have to really reframe things for people. You know, there's always some negative that's happening, but try to paint things as much in a positive light, and don't lie, don't exaggerate. I'm the type I undersell and overdeliver.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man. Awesome.
But I'm happy you enjoyed it, man.
It's good shit. Absolutely. Hopefully we can do it sometime in the future again.
Absolutely.
To it would be great, man.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Great having you, Jordan. Ladies and gents, this has been, what is it now? That's going to be 183. Episode 183 of the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I've been doing this pretty consistently. Subscribe, like, and share. Leave your comments. If you haven't seen Owning Manhattan, make sure to go see it. I would say you should really go see it before you watch this episode, but either or is fine. And obviously, make sure to follow Jordan on Instagram. Throw your social media out there.
Absolutely. And we'll come back for a part 2. I'm going to be out in Florida more.
We got to do a collab, though, with some of the listings that we have that our brokerage has.
Yeah, likewise.
Come meet the guys.
I'm working on 3 specific projects that are going to be in Brickell. So just stay tuned. Mm-hmm. Super sexy, very boutique projects mixed with condo, hotel, great layouts, amenity packages, like you name it. So for you and your brokerage community, if you're looking for some really cool investments to get your hands on in some great neighborhoods out in Brickell, I have a couple projects that are coming to market. Season 1, the Millocks, and the Parkside. So stay tuned. And, those who want to follow me and so on, it's Jordan March on Instagram or jordan@serhant.com if you ever want to email me.
Okay, you heard it there first. Until next time.